How you guys doing? I'm Nick the Sailor and welcome aboard the next video. So to take a break from Comic-Con, we're going to go ahead and do the video that I always talked about doing, which is the history of Perfect Dark. This is going to be the first in a series of video gaming history or retro gaming history. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about this game, Perfect Dark. Now, Perfect Dark was developed and published by Rare on May 22nd, 2000. It was designed to be the successor of GoldenEye 007, which was also published and created by Rare. Now, something that you should also know about GoldenEye 007 is that it set the premise of how a multiplayer first-person shooter should be done. Basically, if this game wasn't created, multiplayer first-person shooter games wouldn't be what they are today. So things like Call of Duty and Battlefield just may be very different than what they are today. 007 GoldenEye is what really set the premise of what these games ended up becoming. Now originally Rare was going to make Tomorrow Never Dies, but they were outbid for the rights to it by Electronic Arts, who ended up releasing it in 1999. Since Rare had so much invested in the 007 universe, they actually decided to go off and make their own game that had the same kind of universe that was a 007-esque science futuristic dystopia future type game, which ended up being Perfect Dark. Now I should also mention that they made Perfect Dark on the Game Boy Color, which they released on August 1st of 2000. This is why my shirts get so stretched out. Now the things that inspired that inspired Perfect Dark for the studio was things such as Ghost in the Shell, Elektra, The X-Files, Blade Runner, and the writing of author Philip K. Dick. These things set up the premise of the main character within the game. Now the director Martin Hollis and designer David Cook, they worked together to find architectural designs that would fit the feel of a James Bond universe while feeling dystopian at the same time. Now Hollis was a very firm believer that there wasn't enough female main characters within the video gaming world, which led to the creation of Joan of Arc. That's obviously a play on words of Joan of Arc, the French warrior and saint who helped France win the 100-Year War. So that's a really interesting tidbit that they actually ended up doing. Now director Hollis loved how Japanese games would come over to America and have improper grammar in them. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some examples of what I'm talking about when it comes to that. In Metal Gear on the NES, which for those wondering, yes, that is a part of the Metal Gear series, Metal Gear Solid series. So in Metal Gear we had the phrase, "I feel asleep," which makes no sense. But yeah, just translation errors, And it's not really translation errors, it's just the way the languages are written. They come off different in our language, but they make sense in their own. I can kind of really understand that because I speak, read, and write fluent German, and there's times where I watch things like trailers to the new game Wolfenstein, and I just go, that's not translated quite accurately, but okay, it still makes sense. Also in Zero Wing, you're going to get the phrase, "What happened?" And another example, which will be my final one, is Final Fantasy VII. There's a phrase that shows up, says, "This guy are sick." So naming the game Perfect Dark is a phrase that also translates into bad grammar in Japanese. Originally, Nintendo considered releasing the game under the name Akatokuro, which I hope I'm saying that right, translates to red and black, but decided to go with the literal Western translation, Tafukuto Taku. I hope I'm pronouncing that right as well, but that's what they went with. Of course, that's the improper translation for the Japanese way of saying it. Now, the same team that developed GoldenEye developed Perfect Dark, with the same engine, only more enhanced than before, taking 3 years to develop. Of course, the game was a huge success, with every review getting at least a 9 out of 10 and selling over 3 million units worldwide. Now, Rare did have a remaster of the game for the Xbox Live Arcade on Xbox 360, released on March 17th, 2010, which was done by 4J Studios and published by Microsoft, selling nearly 410,000 units in 1 year. This time getting ratings no lower than a 7.5 out of 10. In 2015, the game was included in the Rare Replay video, game compilation for the Xbox One. So let's go ahead and talk about what happened after the year 2000, after Perfect Dark's release, which did fantastically well. And they immediately started trying to figure out a sequel. So obviously, there's some things that went on there. So let's go ahead and talk about Perfect Dark Zero. So Perfect Dark Zero made its first appearance at Space World in 2000, which was in Japan. The demo briefly showed a 3D real-time render of Jonah Dark. In 2001, at the Electronic Entertainment Expo, Nintendo advertised the title itself, Perfect Dark Zero. That's when the name itself was first introduced, which was advertised for the GameCube. Unfortunately, as quickly as it showed up on that list, it was taken down. In January of 2002, it was announced that the release date was pushed back to 2004 because of internal team problems at Rare. These are things that usually happen in the gaming industry anyway. Once Rare was actually purchased by Microsoft in 2002, many cartoon images of Jonah Dark were released to the public. Following years, not much was heard about the sequel. It took until about May of 2005 at the official unveiling of the Xbox 360 that Perfect Dark Zero would be a launch title for the new system in fall of 2005. Shortly after a demo for the game was shown during the Electronic Entertainment Expo. During that time, they also made comic books based on Perfect Dark, but I won't get into that, The game was finally released on November 17th, 2005, and they had sold more than 1 million units worldwide with a rating no lower than a 6 out of 10 and an average of an 8.5 out of 10. It was critically well received, but it only took time before big names like Game Informer came out and said what many of us were thinking, and I was one of these people. I remember getting my very first Xbox 360, which came with Perfect Dark Zero, and I was super excited. Now, I popped the game in, and I remember feeling disappointed. I mean, it felt bland and very underwhelming. I don't know, there's something, I just didn't like it, to be honest about it. I just did not like it. It felt like the only reason why this game won any awards was just because the name. Everybody knew the name. That felt like the only reason why it won any awards. Not to mention it was only one of a handful of games that came out on the 360 that year as well. If you guys remember Mirror's Edge, that came out that year as well, and that was a very broken game. I mean, Games Done Quickly couldn't even figure out an actual rules and guidelines of what counts as a glitch run and what doesn't count as a glitch run. Because the game's mechanics kind of seemed glitchy themselves, so it was very difficult to figure that out. That's how broken that game was. Now, when I actually did see the reviews of the game, and I saw the scores up there on IGN and all sorts of different websites, I thought, they gotta be joking. Because the graphics were amazing, I'll say that. They were amazing, but the story just fell flat on its face. The acting was much better in Perfect Dark than it was in Perfect Dark Zero. There was a lot more going on, and this game just felt like it was missing a lot. And this game was about as disappointing as Duke Nukem Forever. I mean, I actually have this game. I don't have the original case. I have one of those backup cases that they'll sell them in. But it reminds me of that game because I was really looking forward to it, and then I was just kind of disappointed. Although, granted, Perfect Dark Zero, I do have fun on it, just as I do with Duke Nukem Forever. It's just they were underwhelming. They didn't do as well as I was hoping they would. Game trailers in 2010 placed Perfect Dark Zero 6th on their top 10 disappointments of the decade, and 10th on their worst sequel list. Now, in 2011, after this game's release, years after this game's release, so 2010 they had the remaster that came out on the arcade, Xbox Live Arcade, and the next year in 2011, it was revealed a new title called Perfect Dark Core was in development.
And it's gone.
What's all gone?
Didn't do too well, it's gone.
Just like that, it came and went. That's where the series stands today. So could there ever be a third one? Well, in August of 2015, Microsoft Studios creative director Ken Lobb stated this. They have not abandoned the Perfect Dark series and that a new game will eventually be developed, although not necessarily as a first-person shooter. So let me know what you guys think the next Perfect Dark video game should do, what should be in it, how it should be done. Let me hear your guys' thoughts, and if you knew any of this information, or if you learned something new, just go ahead and leave it in the comments. I should make a few announcements because the Comic-Con video that I did gained a lot of attention, and I was not expecting that at all. I'll get into more details about that, have something in the works. I won't quite reveal it just yet, it's more of a surprise. So I really hope you guys will enjoy what comes up. I'm not sure, I'm not going to count all my chickens before they hatch, but I do have something planned and we're going to get to that. Now, something I should also announce is that I did get my Video Games Monthly box in this week, and something that I should mention is that Video Games Monthly, they send their box the first week of every month. Retro Game Treasure send theirs at the last week of every month. So that's the way they kind of compete against each other. So once the Retro Game Treasure box comes in, I'll do the round 2 of comparing the two as well. So I'll reveal what the games were in both boxes, and then we only have 1 month to go before I cancel one of those out. So that's it for this retro gaming history video. I hope you guys like this video. Go ahead and click that like button down below. And if you like what I do, go ahead and subscribe. Don't be afraid to. And as always, remember 22 and stay classy, bros.